let's talk a little bit about Elon Musk, because this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
2 weeks in, he has already brought this company to its knees, to the point where like almost every executive of any relevance has basically tried to quit, or is quitting, or has quit, or is out the door. The ad revenue has completely plummeted. They have come up with like 12 different plans. I don't even know where they're at right now with the check mark thing. I haven't even been able to follow that.
I saw some reports that like people were trying to subscribe and it was being frozen. So
yeah, I don't think you can't sign up for them, at least right now. I don't think, but yeah. I mean,
I mean, did you get duped by one yet, Alex? Like, we were about to go live for ESPN, and I saw a fake Woj tweet that Kyrie Irving was released from the Nets, and I was like, we got to change the whole show.
Got a fake Adam Schefter got me for like a split second.
Yeah,
and but just.
But there are other good ones, like someone had a fake Tesla saying like the second Tesla has hit into the World Trade Center.
The Tesla one is great.
The Eli Lilly
Boeing one. Eli Lilly.
The fake APAC saying we love apartheid, and then a fake Carrie Lake responded saying same here, and they said like, what's your Venmo, Carrie? We want to send you money. like I mean, I saw someone else say, I mean, it's like the Titanic is going down, but instead of the violins being played, everyone's just chucking ice at the captain, and that is kind of the vibe that's happening right now.
The Eli Lilly one is amazing because you can look at Eli Lilly's stock price, and it dropped significantly because of that fake tweet.
That's the thing about this that is so incredible, is that like, yeah, like the goofy jokes are one thing, but like people can and people can use this to manipulate markets. Like this is
Elon
actually yes.
Yeah,
this is,
right.
This is like a thing with real world implications, and it's happening so quickly.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It is amazing. And the thing is that I think that like, and I actually think that, listen, if it goes into bankruptcy, it is from the user perspective, it's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is the banks will take a huge haircut, essentially in the financing. He will have to ultimately sell, because he can't, he won't come out the other end of this. He just can't. There's just no way that he can be in charge and make this company profitable at this point, because there is absolutely no trust from the sector that he needs to make it even remotely profitable. It was worth $11 billion. The guy overpaid by $30 billion.
Yes.
Man, who amongst us, right? But and they're going to end up selling it for, maybe half that. Maybe it's going to end up like going in bankruptcy to someone for $5.5 billion. I don't know who that is. And they'll just return it back to where it was. And this whole exercise will have happened. But the thing that I think there's a failure here of sort of just on our part, but also on like, on leftist part. This is a perfect example of why billionaires are so corrosive to our society. I mean, imagine, if you will, that Elon Musk, it wasn't that he thought like, oh, I use Twitter, I can run Twitter. I've got some ideas here and I've got the cash. So bingo, bango, I've got it. And now I just ruin it within 2 weeks. Imagine he was, say, like somebody who was a little bit more serious and decided like, I have no education background, but I've been to school.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll drop $1 billion and all of the money that attracts, which probably, is like at that, like, 2 to 1, 3 to 1 factor of like, if you put, $1 billion into a system like U.S. education that is so starved for funds, you can actually like redirect billions more and change the behavior. Imagine if he was a billionaire who decided to do that and ran this experiment, by putting $1 billion in for, let's say, 10 years and completely changed the trajectory of our education system in this country in a way that after this experiment was over, they hired the Rand Corporation, and the Rand Corporation said, we've done an analysis, completely failed. The experiment completely failed.
Didn't work.
You should go back to listening to educators. That's exactly what happened with the Gates Foundation.
What happened. Yeah.
100%. And like, we're still feeling the reverberations of all this like value add and high stakes testing. And this is why you don't want someone to have that kind of money, because on a whim, instead of like different stakeholders coming in, a lot more messy, but a lot more sort of like cautious and focused based upon like on in the case of Twitter, like the users and the coders and the moderators. In the context of education, it's all the other people. In the context of like, let's say vaccinations, you want medical professionals involved in this. Like, this is the problem with not just Elon Musk, with billionaires, period, end of story. This is why they should literally be illegal. Like, we should not have a system that allows someone to aggregate this much money because of how they can, on a whim, really implicate the trajectory of society, and no one has a say in it except for this guy.
Yeah, and there's a really obvious. I think there's a lot of really interesting discussions we could be having about the private control over the quote unquote sort of public sphere and debate and all that. But at the end of the day, it should just be between Elon Musk and the crypto sector. This should be just a time to say, these guys are like, because they have a large net worth does not actually mean they know what the hell they're doing. And like we have on the ground proof of this. And not only does it mean they don't know what the hell they're doing, but despite not knowing what the hell they're doing, they have the power to screw with you. And Twitter can seem like a frivolous thing, but it's like this thing millions of people were using happily and enjoying and getting together with. And a guy on a whim, because he has the money, can just come in and mess it up in a week. Not like make it slowly worse over time, but like over a few days.
And it's a miracle that the engineers were not able to meet his insane deadline before the midterms, because like, I mean, who knows what the implications of this were, but we saw what happened the day after, where all of these fake accounts were cropping up. And, this kind of stuff travels fast, and it doesn't take much for people to get misinformed.
It'll show up. Yeah, it'll show up on the, before someone has a chance to check it, it'll show up on the news, because that's just how this ecosystem has worked for years. Reporters are like reading off their phones on the news, like that's how the information travels.
It is astounding. And I just hope that there is a concerted effort, and I don't know by whom, to educate the public as to both those two things. That one, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean in any shape or form that you know what the hell you're talking about. Maybe even in the context of how you made your money. But certainly in any context outside of that, it does not translate. And B, this is the problem with having individuals control this amount of money, because they have so much power over our lives. Twitter, not in my estimation, as ultimately as relevant as our education system.
Our educational system.
But it is a perfect, because it's happened so quickly. It really is, I think, like a good teachable moment, as they say. Alex,
I mean, what you described is, sorry, just really quickly, kind of what Bill Gates did in New York. Like,
it's exactly what Bill Gates did in this country.
Yeah,
he put in. He had I was literally describing what he did.
Oh, okay.
Literally, he had a $600 million experiment that they did on the Northwest. But what happened is
that
everybody chased that money.
Yeah, everyone was chasing the money.
So you can go to in Brooklyn, there are schools that are dedicated towards the model that he had set up, and they were going to computerize everything. And so Microsoft was going to sell a bunch of other stuff to it. Right. There's the big grant money, and then there's all the other money that gets churned up around it. And it completely changed the trajectory of education in the entire country. In the entire country. Arnie Duncan and his whole educational ideology was a function of Bill Gates's influence on our education system.
It's going to be a real hard habit for Democrats who have been around since the 90s to break away from treating Silicon Valley guys as geniuses, because that's what they have been doing for a very long time now. They've been their billionaires, they've been their rich guys, they've been the good ones. And
we just should not have billionaires. We should you just should not have the ability on a whim to say heck, man, I went to school. I'm an expert. let's drop $1 billion in that system and see what happens. And okay, well, moving on to the next thing. Let me see what works with.
Let me see how like
people.
healthcare. I'm gonna do healthcare now.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's honestly, it's like I get that you retire and you want a hobby, but maybe your hobby should not be changing the course of
Jay Leno collects cars,
exactly.
No harm in that.
No harm in that, but the idea that like, I'm going to dabble around with where, the trajectory of human civilization. All right, well, whatever.